The Philistines were a people who lived in the coastal regions of ancient Canaan from around the 12th century BCE until they disappeared around 604 BCE. The term Philistine comes from the Hebrew word haplistim, which referred to a group formed from several tribes from Syria and Judea, eventually merging with the older name Syria Palestina. Interestingly, the Latin word Palestine derived from the term used for the lands of Canaan after the Bar Kokhba revolt in 132 to 136 C during the rule of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Now, where did the Philistines come from? That's a question that sparked debate among scholars. In the Hebrew Bible, there's a hint that they might have originated from Crete. Even the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, makes a connection to Crete. Some scholars propose Anatolia or regions around the Black Sea as potential origins. On the other hand, there's a theory that they might have been a break-off tribe within Canaan itself. During the transition from the Late Bronze Age to the Iron Age around 1143 BCE, there was a big shakeup in the eastern Mediterranean due to the invasion of traders known as the Sea Peoples. This event disrupted traditional trade patterns and introduced new technologies like iron weapons and chariots. Pharaoh Ramses III claimed to have defeated the Sea Peoples and forced them out of Egypt, as depicted in wall sculptures at the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Ramses III at Medinet Habu. The Sea Peoples are also mentioned in the Harris Papyrus, where they are referred to as the Pelset, indicating that they were reduced to ashes. During the New Kingdom of Egypt, Egypt had control over the southern Levant, and there's evidence suggesting that some prisoners were settled in the coastal areas of Canaan during this time. And in the biblical books of Judges and 1 Samuel, the Sea Peoples are referred to as Philistines and are portrayed as the greatest enemies of Israel. The Israelites, forming a tribal confederation known as the 12 Tribes of Israel, found themselves at odds with the Philistines, who had their own confederation of 5 cities: Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, Gath, and Gaza, which later became known as the Gaza Strip. In the book of Judges, we encounter the tales of the folk hero Samson, who frequently clashed with the Philistines. Samson, born under a Nazirite vow which demanded he be set apart and devoted to God, possessed immense strength, famously defeating a group of Philistines using only the jawbone of an ass. Despite his exceptional abilities, Samson's downfall came when he fell for a Philistine woman named Delilah. She managed to coax the secret of his strength from him and betrayed him to his enemies, resulting in his capture, blinding, and imprisonment. However, in a final act of defiance, Samson, his hair regrown and strength restored, brought down a Philistine temple, killing many of his captors. Moving into the opening chapters of 1 Samuel, tensions escalate further. Eli, the high priest, suggested taking the Ark of the Covenant into battle against the Philistines, hoping it would bring victory. Instead, the Israelites suffered a devastating defeat, and the Ark was captured by the Philistines. However, their triumph soon turned to misfortune as plagues befell them, leading them to return the Ark to Israelite territory with offerings of gold. The narrative then shifts to the rise of David. Recognizing the limitations of a tribal confederation against the Philistine threat, the people sought a king to lead them into battle. Despite reservations about deviating from their unique identity, Samuel anointed Saul as the first king. However, Saul's reign proved to be fraught with difficulties. Eventually, Samuel anointed David, the youngest son of Jesse, as the future king of Israel, marking the beginning of a new era. And, continuing from the narrative of the rise of David, we delve into the famed tale of David and Goliath. While David's older brothers battled the Philistines on the front lines, David himself brought them food. There, he learned of the Philistines' challenge, a duel between their champion, the giant Goliath, and an Israelite champion to settle the conflict. Appalled by the lack of volunteers, David stepped forward despite his youth and lack of experience in conventional warfare. Disregarding Saul's armor due to its cumbersome size, David armed himself with a sling, a simple yet effective weapon of his choice. With a well-aimed stone from his sling, David struck Goliath in the forehead, felling the mighty giant. He then used Goliath's own sword to finish the job, beheading him and securing a remarkable victory for the Israelites. However, David's triumph over Goliath also sowed the seeds of jealousy in Saul, who grew envious of David's success. This jealousy ultimately led to David being chased from the royal court, forced to live on the run to evade Saul's wrath. Despite his precarious situation, David's reputation as a skilled warrior continued to grow, with the people praising him for his numerous victories over the Philistines, much to Saul's chagrin. During his time on the run, David and his followers often found themselves working as mercenaries for the Philistines. However, despite their service, the Philistines never fully trusted David, refusing to allow him to fight against his own people, the Israelites. The story takes a tragic turn with the death of Saul and his son Jonathan at the Battle of Mount Gilboa. With the demise of the reigning monarch and his heir, the tribes of Israel turned to David, declaring him king and ushering in a new era of a united monarchy under his rule. Despite his precarious situation, David's reputation as a skilled warrior continued to grow, with the people praising him for his numerous victories over the Philistines, much to Saul's chagrin. During his time on the run, David and his followers often found themselves working as mercenaries for the Philistines. Contrary to common misconceptions, the Philistines were not devoid of culture or education. The story takes a tragic turn with the death of Saul and his son Jonathan at the Battle of Mount Gilboa. With the demise of the reigning monarch and his heir, the tribes of Israel turned to David, declaring him king and ushering in a new era of a united monarchy under his rule. And exploring further into Philistine culture, their religious beliefs revolved around deities such as Baal, Astarte, Asherah, and Dagon, mirroring elements of Canaanite religion. Archaeological findings, including depictions of goddess figures seated on chairs, reflect influences from Aegean goddess worship. Despite initial resistance, Sargon's son, Sennacherib, ultimately quashed the rebellions and razed Philistine cities over the span of a decade. Rather, they possessed a vibrant artistic culture and a diverse economy. Through excavations, it becomes evident that the Philistines shared many aspects of worldview with their neighboring cultures. However, the zenith of Philistine civilization waned with the invasion of Canaan by the Neo-Assyrian Empire around 722 BCE. Sites associated with the Philistines in Israel, along with some locations in the Jezreel Valley further north, have been extensively studied by archaeologists. Among the discoveries are large halls reminiscent of earlier Mycenaean architecture, featuring central hearths and thrones. While Jerusalem managed to resist the Assyrian onslaught for a time, it eventually succumbed to the Babylonians in 587 BCE. This period marks the final mention of the Philistines in historical records, signaling the end of their once prominent presence in the region. And archaeological excavations have provided valuable insights into the culture and practices of the Philistines. Through DNA analysis, researchers determined that the Philistines were not indigenous to the region but shared burial practices with earlier Aegean cultures, such as being buried in round stone-lined tombs uncommon in Canaan. While little is known about the Philistine language, some pottery fragments feature non-Semitic inscriptions. Additionally, a few Philistine words and names appear to be associated with Indo-European terms, possibly influenced by Aegean/Greek culture. The excavations also shed light on the economic activities of the Philistines, revealing evidence of town planning and a well-established olive and wine industry. Over 200 olive installations have been uncovered, alongside breweries, wineries, and distribution shops. The Philistines demonstrated expertise in metallurgy, working with materials such as gold, bronze, and iron. Their mastery of metalworking extended to weapon production, with even the Israelites seeking Philistine iron tools and weapons. Additionally, a few Philistine words and names appear to be associated with Indo-European terms, possibly influenced by Aegean/Greek culture. The excavations also shed light on the economic activities of the Philistines, revealing evidence of town planning and a well-established olive and wine industry. Over 200 olive installations have been uncovered, alongside breweries, wineries, and distribution shops. The Philistines demonstrated expertise in metallurgy, working with materials such as gold, bronze, and iron. Their mastery of metalworking extended to weapon production, with even the Israelites seeking Philistine iron tools and weapons. The Philistines settled along the southern coastal plain of what is now Israel and the Gaza Strip, an area that became known as Philistia. They established a number of city-states, including Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath, each ruled by a local king. The Philistines were known for their advanced culture and technology, including their distinctive pottery and their use of iron tools and weapons. The Bible describes the Philistines as enemies of the Israelites, with whom they clashed repeatedly over territory and resources. The most famous conflict between the Philistines and the Israelites is the story of the battle between the Philistine champion Goliath and the young Israelite shepherd David, who defeated Goliath with a sling and a stone. Despite their conflicts with the Israelites, the Philistines also had interactions and trade relations with other peoples in the region, including the Egyptians and the Phoenicians. Over time, the Philistine culture and identity became increasingly assimilated into the broader Canaanite and Israelite cultures, and by the 7th century BCE, the Philistines had largely disappeared as a distinct people. In conclusion, the origins of the Philistines remain somewhat enigmatic, but it is clear that they were a significant presence in the ancient Near East during the Late Bronze and early Iron Ages. Their interactions with the Israelites and other peoples in the region shaped the history and culture of the Eastern Mediterranean, leaving a lasting impact that is still felt today.